Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us in our APPI series of Learn by Doing. Today, the topic will be human versus artificial intelligence. You'll be happy to know that we are still way ahead, human beings. I am introducing this symbol now more and more because APPI is aggressively looking for precog pros who we can work with as professionals actually earning money doing primarily ARV. And as part of that, I just want to emphasize that in becoming a precog pro, what is so important is that you're able to integrate this into the rest of your life. So it just becomes another part of your life, the fact that you're doing precognition, retrocausality. And in fact, it will be significant in other parts of your life as well. Okay, here is the outline for the next couple of hours. First, I want to give an overview for some newbies and a review for others about what associative remote viewing is really all about. And then I want to talk about this human intelligence versus artificial intelligence in the context which ultimately relates to precognition, spirituality, lots of high-end subjects. And all of that, I hope, will help you in the future just sort of contemplate how magnificent you are, and the fact that doing ARV prediction, which we will do at the end here today, is just a natural capability of human intelligence. Not clear whether artificial intelligence will be able to get there or not, and we will discuss that. Now, here's associative remote viewing, really in the clearest way I know how to explain it. And hopefully, if you have any questions, you feel free to ask as I go through this. But the basic tenet in linear time is that you start with a remote viewing session, classical remote viewing type session, where the tasking is to describe and or sketch your feedback target. Once you accept precognition is real, and if you're here, you probably already do, then this is a standard remote viewing session, and this is the time when you do your remote viewing of a target that you will see during your feedback session. So consciousness has access to information from distant places and distant times. That's what remote viewing is all about. We are using the distant times primarily because we're connecting up with your feedback session, but it also does distant places because your consciousness will go to the place of a photograph or a photo site that you will be seeing during your feedback session. Now, the feedback session comes later in time, and that's when you experience your feedback target. And there's only one feedback target, period. And that's your task. If you do anything else, you're not doing your task. How well you do it is one of the things which your judge, which may be an independent judge or self-judging, happens in between, because the whole idea of associative remote viewing is to use precognition to make a judgment about something which is a yes or no question. So the idea in ARV is to be able to answer a simple binomial yes-no question. Often we'll put them in the context of um, over, under, if it's sports, or up or down, if it's financial, but that can always be put in, will the stock market move up tomorrow, for example. It can always be put into a yes-no form, simple binary form. So because it's binary, there are two possible targets, one associated with yes, one associated with no. Okay? You are always going to see what actually happens. If the answer to the question, which you'll only know when the outcome is known, which is um, somewhat before you do your feedback session, but after the analysis and judging, you will always be shown the correct target that's associated with yes or no. And the computer does all this randomly. We have 800 paired targets, which we think are pretty good, and we keep improving them. But the key is your target is only one of these, which is associated with the correct answer. And that's how we, in fact, get answers to yes-no questions. That's what ARV is. Now, that was in linear time. Let's go through it again, but this time, let's recognize that what we're doing is purposeful precognition. This is not like a deja vu. This is not like when, God, you think of someone you haven't thought of for 10 years, and just then they call on the telephone. You know, those are like spontaneous. ARV, we want to be able to do this on purpose. We want to get the answer to our yes-no question on purpose. So we're doing this in a purposeful fashion, and that's why you can truly think of this as being precognition beginning with the feedback session, because we are on purpose going to light this session up so that you can describe it during your remote viewing session. So here's the typical tasking. Describe and sketch your, we use a 6-digit numbers. We call them coordinates for historical reasons. Some people call them transcript reference numbers, target reference numbers, TRNs, because they are associated with the feedback target. Now, the feedback target in what we're doing is a photo site. And so I want that to be clear in your mind. In the past, they've used actual physical sites. They'll go out to a site, a physical location. They use objects sometimes, but since we do everything over the internet, it's really makes sense to do what is called a photo site. Now, a photo site refers to a particular physical location at a particular time, the time the photo was taken. So your consciousness is expected to move to that physical site at the time the photo was taken and describe and or sketch what can be readily verified or inferred from the photo. Now, this is very important. In many remote viewing sessions, a location, in fact, is given, but in a very general sense, and you can describe it, you know, moving up 1,000 feet, and you can get all kinds of different kinds of information. Here, your job and part of the tasking is to describe what can be verified or inferred from the photo easily, directly, because the judging phase comes in here, and you want to make it easy for the judge. You want to be really clear about the actual target. So built into the word photosite is the fact that you're going for what can be readily verified or inferred from the photo. Okay, so this includes all the kinds of things that your normal nervous system can pick up. You know, when you first look at the picture, you get a first impression, a gestalt. You know, is there water? Is it outside? Is it inside? Is there a major color, perhaps? Whatever you would get kind of in a quick first look. And then as the session goes on, you will get more details, which could be visual, sound, smells, tastes, emotions, tactile sensations, etc. Okay, so the target is that photosite. Now, I emphasize this so much because historically, people start giving lots of reasons when they don't do as well as they would like. Hey, just accept it. You either get your target and you get it well, so it gets judged well, or you don't, and that's fine. Nobody's perfect. Not even the best viewers are 100%. Now, this judging, of course, is key, and I'm emphasizing it again here, the judging phase, and we're going to do that later today. You need to pick out one of the two possible targets. And so it's during the remote viewing session when all that gets set up. So once you understand and take precognition for granted, as I hope you are doing, and building it in deeper and deeper in yourself, as sure I can get information from my feedback session. Hey, it's my feedback session, and I'm going to share information with my remote viewing session. And I don't know how I can do that, but I know I can do it. I've seen it done so many times. I've probably done it myself, and I want to get now better and better at it. Okay, that's ARV. Are there any questions or comments about that? I think you are getting it. Now the idea is to get better and better at it. So let's now talk about human versus artificial intelligence. And this picture actually says so much. We're getting better and better at making artificial things which look more and more like they're being human. And I don't think there's any question that we'll get better and better at that. Um, but in doing things, okay, and a robot can play chess. We've had computers actually beat the best champions of chess, and they did it though by going through every possibility. That was the current state of the art a few years ago, going through all the possibilities. But the AI world has actually improved dramatically, and I'm going to want to talk to you about that because just recently they taught a machine to win at Go, and the game Go has more possibilities than chess, and they actually taught it to play the game, and it taught itself. It was a self-teaching machine, which gets a lot closer to what humans do, using their intuition, emotions, other things, rather than something which is pre-programmed. And this becomes kind of a key element of what do we mean when we talk about intelligence and artificial versus human-like. And thinking about this, and a lot of people, including philosophers and scientists, have done a lot of thinking about this. And I want to share with you kind of their ideas here because they're important in terms of you recognizing really how human intelligence is so deep. Here they're saying, and And weak AI is when you just program a computer and it makes decisions in a way that you've programmed rather directly. We'll call that weak um, artificial intelligence. But strong artificial intelligence refers to AI that matches, and they're even allowing the possibility of even exceeds general human level intelligence. So intelligent machines will have mental states, and they specifically mention consciousness here, etc. So that's pretty controversial. But the idea are examples like from the robots in 2001, HAL, the HAL 9000 in the movie The Matrix. They had these, well, they were robots. They look like humans, but they really weren't. And then the Terminator and iRobot, the ideas here go way back. Science fiction's picked up on this many, many years ago. But how human can they get? The goal of human level intelligence remains elusive, but has inspired and still inspires work on AI, even though right now most efforts are building on weak AI. Okay, so there really is a distinction there which is well recognized. They're still not at the point where we would say they can simulate human intelligence. Now, what is intelligence? Okay, the definition itself is controversial. So we're really at the cutting edge levels here, even in defining what it is when we talk about intelligence in general, human or artificial. Now, they had a bunch of psychologists and they were trying to come down with the definition. And out of 131 people who were invited, psychologists, to define this, 52 signed it, but others were not happy with the definition. I mean, that shows you how it's not that easy to define. But here's the one that seems reasonable to me, and 52 signed on for this. A very general mental capability that, among other things, involves the ability to reason, plan, solve problems, think abstractly, comprehend complex ideas, learn quickly, and learn from experience. It is not merely book learning, a narrow academic skill, or test-taking smarts. Rather, it reflects a broader and deeper capability for comprehending our surroundings, catching on, making sense of things, or figuring out what to do. So I like that at the very end, but you can see they're bringing in everything which sort of we as humans kind of do naturally and make decisions on what to do. All of this really leads to action. Now, what's artificial intelligence? Okay, the theory and development of computer systems able to perform tasks that normally require human intelligence, such as visual perception, speech recognition, decision making, and translation between languages. So this is the sort of thing which actually AI are able to do now in a pre-programmed kind of way, but they're trying to match human intelligence. Now I want to broaden, notice there it said computer systems. I want to broaden your sense of what a computer really is. And this is really well understood in the scientific community, because here in Scientific American, they talk about black hole computers. And this goes back, and Stephen Hawkins admitted he was wrong. When I was in high school and even early years of college, black holes were considered to suck up everything that went into it with nothing coming out. So it was a one-way deal. But no, that's not true. Matter goes in and what they're calling answers, stuff comes out. And that's really the broadest definition of a computer. You take inputs, so who knows what goes on inside? You don't understand the way your computer works in fine detail. You didn't program it. But yet, when you do something on your computer, when you're doing a word processor, you hit these funny keys and letters come out. I mean, you're using a computer, but they're inputs and they're outputs. Now, here's a definition of a computer, one that computes, right? You love that. But a programmable, usually electronic device that can store, retrieve, and process data, not necessarily electronic. What I'm opening you up to, and I did give another whole talk on this, is that you, by the broad definition of computer, are a computer. Um, um, and I would say, and I'll tell you more about this later, you are a quantum computer. You have the capability to do things that really only quantum mechanical entities can do, like non-locality, like being connected through space and time. Now, classical computers, so these are the ones that we're using now. So all artificial intelligent machines that are being used now use classical computers, which means the kind that you're used to, that you pre-program, and all they will do is what they're programmed to do. They are totally deterministic. Now, what Richard Feynman, Caltech Nobel laureate in quantum mechanics, he showed that a classical computer, a deterministic one, pre-programmed one, can never simulate non-locality. Thus, a classical computer could never simulate a human mind. So he proved that. That's sort of cool. If you have a program that works in deterministic linear way, it can't be non-local. So in a way, we've answered one of the key questions about classical computers. Can they ever do precognition? The answer is no. Okay, so you're a conscious, self-programming, living being, but you've got this quantum element in you, which classical computers do not. Okay, now I happen to believe that the number one achievement of artificial intelligence to date has been this idea that they put logic into the AI, which permits the AI computer, even though it's deterministic, but it permits it to teach itself and to learn from itself, given input data and simple measures of success. But it taught itself. This, for me, when I heard about their doing this, was like a aha moment, because that's what human beings do. We are constantly teaching ourselves. We learn. When you're a little baby, the fact that you can learn how to walk, that is an amazing feat. And you learn that by watching other people walk, by wanting to walk, bringing in emotions. I want to do that too. But here, with a deterministic approach, they beat Go. If you look at this, it has a lot more squares than chess. It's got many, many more possibilities, so many that the idea of going through every possibility was not doable for Go. It was recognized that Go would be much more difficult to beat the top players in the world with a computer, and yet they did it. The way they did it was by first teaching Go how to play, gave it the basic rules, I probably gave it some ideas, but it started off not playing well. Their trick was they played it against itself. They played hundreds of thousands of Go games and saw who won, and it learned just by watching itself. So just you got to kind of take that in. the the machine, this is a deterministic machine now, but nevertheless it played against itself. So it was white, it was black, it made moves based on its current understanding. It won and lost. It saw what happened when it won. It saw what happened when it lost, since it was doing both. And it got better and better. And it ultimately has beaten the best Go players in the world. So we now have an artificial intelligent machine that plays Go better than any human being. And it did that by learning how to do it itself. Only in terms of its own internals do we understand how it did it. In other words, a human being does not understand what goes on because of the way the AI machine basically learned and programmed itself to make moves based on what it sees in front of it. You know, I'm using words like the word computer, which is very mechanistic. I'm using the word here, self-assembly, which sounds very, I don't know, mechanical. But you have to understand that you are a system. In fact, I'm going to change this word right now. You are what's called a complex system. And indeed, that's just what you are. You are a very complex system with lots of different parts, including everything that makes you human. Now, notice what this means. This means you do teach itself. That's what the AI system does. It learns from itself. It's given input data and it has choices. It acts like an independent agent once it's given measures of success. Now, this Go example, I mean, it did all that stuff, and yet you still don't have the feeling that it's a human intelligence. What might be going on that we're missing? And I want to talk about that, but I want to introduce that. There was a great TED talk where the point was that Mother Nature has had a lot of time, like billions of years, certainly many millions of years in the case of, sentient consciousness on our planet and human consciousness. And the great example they gave, which at least struck me, was about fleas. Intelligence of all kinds. Being able to walk is a kind of intelligence, right? Being able to jump when you feel like you want to jump is a kind of intelligence. Well, it turns out fleas apparently jump 160 times higher than their own length, where humans get to do about 4. I mean, that's a pretty dramatic difference. And it turns out in this article, this TED Talk, they talk about how they found the material in fleas which allow them to do this, and they're starting to manufacture it. You know, they now have nanotechnology techniques genome techniques where they can match this stuff. I mean, we're getting quite intelligent and we're using Mother Nature as a guide. Well, you know what? Mother Nature's had a lot of time to work on human intelligence as well. And there are a few things which I want to point out about that. Now, humans using their intelligence with these deterministic machines have really come remarkably far along. I want you really to kind of get this. If you talk about our normal machines, we can do calculations per second per $1,000. Okay, so here was one calculation per $1,000 was back in the days when we had the UNIVAC type machines. Okay, notice this is a logarithmic scale. Here we've gone up a factor of 100 in roughly 20 years, something like that. But this is the exponential growth that people talk about all the time. And this has gone up dramatically. Notice now we're up to 10 to the 12th or so. 10 to the 11th is our current good machines. But they're projecting human brain in terms of the number of calculations per second. But that's going to take quantum computing. It's going to take optical kind of computing, much more advanced than where we are now. But guess what? We know they're working on quantum machines, and there's every reason to believe we're going to get up to the human brain. We're almost at a mouse brain now. Okay. This kind of growth, no reason to believe it's not going to continue, will get us to the point with quantum computing when we get up to something like the human brain. Now, again, I want you to understand that your system is like a complex kind of computer. You have 100 trillion, well, it's synapses, but you probably have 100 trillion what are called microtubules in your system, each of which are surrounding a nucleus which has your DNA in it, which might be like a quantum mechanical qubit. Don't know that, I'm making that up, but I know you got lots of them. You got trillions of cells in your body. You're talking these kind of numbers now, trillion numbers, which gives you all kinds of capabilities. So the idea that you might be like a quantum computer is reasonable. And inside even one of these nucleus are these 0-point energy points. I bring that in because I think that's the interface between the physical and the non-physical world. And at the 0-point energy level, there are gazillion points, more than, you get to be so many, the numbers don't mean anything anymore. But who knows? Maybe a microtubule is like a qubit. We don't know. But Mother Nature has put together a system that allows you to do precognition and other psi things. And there are people out there that believe this microtubule network is the key. And I just want to make microtubules just a little bit more significant to you, because some of the lowest life forms, like a paramecium, you see these little cilia here? Each one of those has, I think it's 18 microtubules in them. So one of these cilia has microtubules in it, and these things are clearly alive, right? They reproduce, they manage to make it through millions of years, and they learn. They can be attracted to light, away from light, avoid electricity. They are a learning element at the lowest level that you can imagine, one single cell. What is it that we have that's different? That if we would recognize it being kind of unique to us and a major part of our intelligence, maybe we would use it more. Um, and that, of course, is what I'm leaning um, and leading all of you and myself towards. And wisdom is one aspect of that. That's a very human kind of thing. And emotions, love. Maybe the universe gave us emotions for a really good and important reason. And one of the most significant emotions that I think any of us can think of has to do with love. And I found this um, on the internet when I was looking up things like wisdom and love. And this comes from youngsters. They asked a group of 4 to 8 year olds, what does love mean? Okay, and I'm not going to go through them all, but I picked out a few um, because I think they'll resonate with you. Uh, when my grandmother got arthritis, she couldn't bend over and paint her toenails anymore. So my grandfather does it for her all the time, even when his hands got arthritis too. That's love. Love is when you go out to eat and give somebody most of your French fries without making them give you any of theirs. That's love to Chrissy, age 6. Um, just these feelings that these kids get. This is what makes us human. If you want to learn to love better, you should start with a friend who you hate. The people who did this said we need a few million more Nikas on this planet. I couldn't help adding, in our context, imagine if you can learn to love your missus, get into what they're teaching you, and do that aggressively because you know it'll help you. Here's another one down here. You really shouldn't say I love you unless you mean it. But if you mean it, you should say it a lot. People forget. How's that? And I want to connect that up with building up a relationship with your subconscious mind. I think we've been around here enough to know there's a lot more going on than what you experience in this now moment, which is your conscious mind. There's this deep subconscious mind, which is where non-locality, where ARV, where precognition, where PK, psychokinesis, where all the real psi goes on. That's with your subconscious mind, connected to maybe a matrix, a universe of collective consciousness. Build up a relationship with your sub and love it. Well, this is the last one that they gave the winning to. And upon seeing a man cry, a little boy went to the old gentleman's yard, climbed onto his lap, and just sat there. When his mother asked what he had said to the neighbor, the little boy said, nothing. I just helped him cry. You know, these deterministic machines have no hope of getting things like empathy, getting a sense of love, getting a sense of spirituality, a deep connectivity. Okay, so I'm going to put this out here that what would be the key characteristics that would allow you to distinguish artificial intelligence from human intelligence. And I'm going to say the big picture stuff are things like spirituality, emotions, the fact that we do those, And I'm directly going to put out, just because it's the best and measurable sign of non-locality. I happen to think these three are all intimately connected with the other psi functions, but I want to put that on the list because ARV, for example, and other psi informational kinds of techniques, approaches, can be measured. And so we could actually measure whether or not an AR machine can do precognition by asking it to do ARV, which we know you can do. We also know about the spirituality and the emotions. Okay, I want just to do a little bit more on trying to just get this deep, hopefully deep in you, to understand that it's this human part of you that in fact is doing the precognition, the retrocausality, the associative remote viewing. So what is spirituality? And this came relatively recently, this definition from Nancy McMonagle, Joe's wife. And she also happens to be the stepdaughter of Robert Monroe. Many of you know the Monroe Institute. Out of body is one of their best things, but they do all kinds of other stuff, including teaching remote viewing and all kinds of other skills about spirituality. So here is her definition. She was told that it was like the challenge to get it published, which indeed it was, to be 3 sentences. So, spirituality references the metaphysical, that which goes beyond the material, mundane world. It includes a conscious sense of that which is greater than the individual, egocentric self, and embraces a connection to a unifying principle and all that is. Spirituality is about how we perceive, connect with, and bring this greater unifying principle into our lives. It is about consciously living from a more transcendent space of love, gratitude, kindness, compassion, non-judgment, inclusiveness, respect, and honor for all beings, resulting in a perception and experience of the profound sanctity and interconnectedness in all life. I thought that was really beautiful, and I hope you do too. And then let's talk a little bit more about emotions and choices. Here's where emotions, feelings, and decisions, they actually did a study with people who had had accidents and lost their ability to have emotions. And what they said is the study of the patients who suffered injuries to the parts of the brain that govern emotions, they found that people who lack an emotional reaction to a situation struggle to make a good decision to that situation, even if those people are otherwise quite intelligent. So I thought that was sort of interesting. Emotions, which are pretty closely related to intuition and feelings and, emotions and feelings. Let's not get into what the difference are, but, you certainly have a sense of what they are important for making decisions because they definitely give you guideposts. Does it feel good? In fact, often they'll tell you, think of A, think of B, and you can make a decision based on that. Emotions are just important part of being human. We all kind of know that. But this connection, I thought, was very significant in terms of it also being a contributor to making decisions and choices. I call them choices. Okay, so I just want to summarize here. This is really, you are a self-assembly complex system. You teach yourself. You've been doing that ever since you were born. You're probably doing it in utero as well. Learn from yourself. Okay, your experiences. You're teaching yourself and you're learning all the time, and know that. Isn't that really kind of cool? And then, yes, you're given input data and you make choices and you act as an independent agent. Um, and you have measures of success. For us, I don't know, I think one of the best measures is feeling good, happy. But you set up your objectives and you get to do that. And with all of this, learn to love yourself more and more. You're pretty terrific. And here I'm focusing on you doing this yourself. And if not you, who? Sure, we all have teachers of some sort for a while, but let me just read his quote here. When you think everything is someone else's fault or responsibility, you will suffer a lot. When you realize that everything springs only from yourself, you will learn both peace and joy. And this comes from the Dalai Lama. That idea, which has been out there a lot, which is that you are basically completely responsible for your life, is a biggie for everything that happens. Accept responsibility for it and learn from it. And then finally, let me give you some quotes from the Noetic Sciences. That's IONS, Institute of Noetic Sciences. Mitchell, the astronaut, started that. So the word noetic comes from the word noesis, which means inner wisdom, direct knowing, or subjective understanding, your personal understanding, and making it real for you. So again, this idea of wisdom, direct knowing, this is the top end of um, uh, what human beings are about, okay? Noetic sciences, a multidisciplinary field that brings objective scientific tools and techniques, okay, the intellectual stuff, together with subjective inner knowing to study the full range of human experiences. So, I hope I've put in context what human intelligence is and whether artificial machines, and I know they're going to have to be quantum computers, will be able to get to that stage. It's not clear to me. We'll have to wait and see. But I have put out there a test for them. Can artificial intelligent machines do precognition? Can they do associative remote viewing with odds much greater than chance? That's the challenge I would put to artificial intelligent machines. Okay, before we go on, are there any questions, comments on this presentation on human intelligence versus artificial intelligence? Okay. Okay, so let's go on. We've just spent, almost an hour on this, and I think it's worth taking a little stretch here. I'm stretching myself. We're going to get into a different mindset now. So here is our standard cue. So we're starting to thinking intellectually about this, and then we're going to get into doing it non-intellectually, using the most human parts of us. So the cue, of course, is describe and or sketch your, and this will be a coordinate that we'll be getting shortly, your feedback target. The feedback target you're going to see, and we're going to be doing one a month or so in the future. So this Q coordinate is one of the tags, and I always like to ask you to say it out loud, because you'll say it out loud again at feedback time, and that'll help get you there. For your newbies, what we see is the kind of thing when we do our remote viewing session, we'll get quiet. You'll set this intention again with the cue. You'll start getting images and often words. It's an and or, but they usually, in most people, you get some of both. And the word level are at the level of, I don't know, maybe a 5-year-old, a 4-year-old learning how to talk, but wouldn't know the name, of, say, the Eiffel Tower, but would know big, huge, might even use, hey, I see diagonals, by then might know enough about geometry to use those kind of level words. This seems to be the way the subconscious communicates with the conscious mind. So when it visits the photo site, the location where the actual target is, and it wants to describe it to your remote viewing self, it'll tend to use these kind of words. It uses all of the senses of human beings, including emotions. Aesthetic impact has a lot to do with how you feel about the site. Does it give you nervousness? Are you excited? But then you get all the other things as well. So, and you really will expect to get pieces. You might get just little pieces of the geometry. You might even just get lines or something like that. But whatever you get, put it down on your transcript. Joe McMonagle and Ed May. Joe's probably the best certainly the best public remote viewer out there. Ed May is the scientist that I think has worked with this consistently for the longest and with the most studies and all that. SRI, he took that work over from Hal Puthoff. And what they've concluded is that intention, attention, and expectation play a very important role in the success of both application and research of remote viewing. So just really need to take that in, because when we have our cue, okay, this is when we're really setting our intention and our expectation for success. So describe and sketch your feedback target. And you're paying a lot of attention to everything going on in your own conscious mind. So we've talked about precognition beginning here, just getting you back into it. We're about to do remote viewing and the judging, and this is all purposeful. The intention, I'm just sort of repeating this again, but I'm not sure I can ever repeat it too often, is to describe and sketch, but you're going to be putting together a transcript that is so good that it'll be easy for the judge to do anything he wants to with. And during the feedback session, you're basically doing the same sort of thing, but you're sending information backward in time to a remote viewing session, but also setting things up for the future. And so you want to improve your ARVing the next time you do it. You're seeing the truth for this particular coordinate, but you're going to be doing a lot more. And so this is a time when you do your learning, whether you have a hit, miss, or pass. And the same thing is true of expectations. You set positive expectations here, and no matter what happens, you're going to do expectations to just get better and better at this in the future. And so you are reinforcing this learning feedback loop. Okay, so right now you can get out a sheet of paper and we're going to, I'm about to get the coordinate. I'll show you how we do that for you newbies. So you can't quite do the say it out loud yet, but you can put your name, a date, and time up here. And let's go get the coordinate. I can send you a sheet like this. A lot of people I see are making their own, which is kind of cool. That makes it even more real, which has all of the kinds of information that you might get. Leaves room for gestalts, which are the big picture information, which often comes up first. And then room for sketches. And then I haven't said anything about analytical overlays, but that's when the mind switches over to mostly being intellectual and starts making intellectual inferences, but the information wasn't directly from the subconscious. So you get red, you get round. Oh, it must be a ball. And there's like a switch. And one of the things you're going to learn is the difference of the feelings of when it comes up from the subconscious versus the intellect jumping in. And when the intellect jumps in, you like to put it over on the right. Hey, you know, you got the feeling that it was the intellect that said it's a ball. Hey, it could be a tomato that's round and red. There are a lot of things that are round and red. But if it's the sense is that it's the analytical jumping in, we write it on the right. We call that trash also because they might not be right, might be right. You don't know, you don't care at this point during your session. You just simply put it over here, which frees you now to go back deep into your subconscious connections and get some more information. So that's what this is typically used for. Okay, so you're paying attention to your consciousness, information from your higher self, and now I want to get the coordinate. So let me show you how we get the coordinate. And we do that from the internet. The whole process here is internet based. And what you're seeing now is what I, as a group manager, sent out as the tasking. So what you're now seeing, and I hope you can read that, is a typical internet email that goes out to everybody in all the groups, and we have lots of groups. And if you're not in one, certainly email me and we'll put you in one. But this is the webinar workshop group, and I sent the email to all the members. In this case, it's all of you, but here for this workshop, I only could send it to myself since I didn't know who was going to be attending. And you can see now the tasking, which sometimes is blind, sometimes I put it. Here I actually put it. Will the Dow Jones Industrial Average be over 25,000 a month from now, January 22nd at 1 p.m. when it closes? So that's reasonable. The Dow has been moving up like crazy. It's like 24,500 or something like that now. And will it keep going up? And will it, in fact, stay up? Will it be up over 25,000? So that's the tasking. Then all you have to do as a viewer is once you get the tasking in your particular group is click here. And then up comes this page where you put in your email address. Usually the groups have lots of people in them, and each one has their own coordinate and their own target. So We want to make everything so you just look at your own future. And that's it. So you put your username in here. We're going to be doing one coordinate. Later, you might want to experiment with two coordinates. But right now, we're going to do one. And there it is. So the coordinate, which you can put on top of your transcript, is 710972. And I'd like you to say it out loud now, and then say it out loud when you start your transcript. So what you're beginning to do is set your intention that when you do your feedback session a month from now, you're going to say the coordinate out loud again, 710972. And it's your physical vibrations into your body that will act as an entanglement with the future time when that happens. Okay? And so you're going to set your intention to do that and then to be there. Okay. So now, okay, so that's what we just did. We got the coordinate. This is using the winning entanglement protocol. Everything is done on servers and saved, and there are places where you put in comments. That's all for your benefit because you'll be able to go back and look at that. So there are a lot of advantages in doing things online. Okay, get yourself ready. Reinforce this cue. This cool down is important because this is where you get quiet and will in fact make the connection with your feedback. What I have here is I'll give you a link to a hemisync which you can or cannot use. I know some of you have already started, which is fine, but let me, for those of you who want to use this hemisync, let me put it in the chat box. And here it is. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is give you 10 minutes. And this particular one has a 5-minute notice. Most people take roughly half the time cooling down and then half the time to do their transcript. There is a 1-minute notice at the end, and I will also verbally give you one of those. And so, good RVing. Let's begin our 10 minutes now. Okay, you have about a minute left. Okay. So why don't you gently come back to your normal state. Again, stretch. Feels good to be conscious, doesn't it? Life is good. Okay, so you're back with me now. And so you went from the deep intuitive, really, I think of it as a spiritual, meditative, and then witnessing, receiving state. And now we're going to go into what is primarily a pure cognitive analytical state. Um, but there's a touch of intuition and mixed in there. So let's talk about this now. The analysis judging is all about deciding, choosing, making a judgment of which transcript is not only the best match, but good enough to be wagerable. Would you be willing to wager on it? And that's based on the judgment of did the viewer, and in this case, we're all going to be doing self-judging, did the viewer make good psychic contact with the feedback target? So this is the system which we're ultimately going to get to. We've been using this for a long time. This is based on Russell Targ and others at Stanford Research Institute, where they set up this system where chance would be a number 2. You get the feeling you might have got a little something, but you didn't make the psychic contact. You look at the transcript, and there's only a few things that match, maybe a word here and there, and part of a sketch, but you could have done that by chance. That's what a 2 is. Sometimes they're worse than that. You get a 0 or a 1. Turns out zeros are difficult, but you might get just a little correspondence, and you think, gee, it's even worse than chance. A 3, you've now made psychic contact. You have mixture of correct and incorrect elements, but enough of the former to indicate the viewer had made contact. So yes, you made psychic contact. So there you are. You're right on the margin there, the fuzzy boundary, but you've made psychic contact. 4, you feel there was really good psychic contact with several matchable elements intermixed with some incorrect information. So now, you're not on the margin. This was really a good session. We when we give confidence rankings, take 3.5 to mean it's wagerable. In other words, and way back when we used to force people to do integers, and they just felt it was just like too hard. They wanted to go in between, and that's certainly permitted. And 3.5 says, I'm over that line, good enough that I'd be willing to wager a few bucks, but not as good as a 4 or a 5. A 5 is very good. Not only do you get the good correspondence, but you now have unambiguous, unique, matchable elements. But there's still some incorrect information. But this is a step up. This is something where you can really point to something that feels so unambiguous and unique that there was that psychic contact with that um, um, elements, more than one, where it was really just a super good session. And 6 and 7 have higher numbers. They're better, but they're better because now you're getting this analytical information. We talked about AOLs. Well, sometimes the AOLs will actually name the function of the target or actually name the target itself. Um, and then we go up to 6 or 7. Um, okay, in those cases. So, and each time you go up, you get less and less incorrect information. So that's the TARG scale. Now, I use this joke so much. I just, because I just don't know any other way to pass on that the communication channel that we're all endeavoring to improve between the subconscious mind that has access to everything and your conscious mind that now experience uses things from that it knows. It uses analogies. It uses metaphors. It'll give you things which resemble the photo site, which resembles the target. But generally, it won't be exactly the same. It's not like you're able to communicate a one-to-one correspondence. Occasionally that happens. It's very, very rare. Um, now, sometimes if people do hour-long sessions, you see, for ARV, we're asking for enough information to distinguish between two pictures, and that's it. And we want this to be done regularly, and so typically 2 pages is enough. Some people, though, still do full sessions, and that's fine. Okay, so, an orange is pretty close to a tangerine. That one, of course, is easy. There's some that'll be on the margin. Don't stretch it too far. You want to make sure that your subconscious is always learning and trying to get better and better at this, and ask it to get better and better at this. So you don't want to feel like when you're judging that you're stretching these metaphors too far just to make it fit. If you have that feeling at all, you probably should not mark it as a match. Okay, and then here's a basic idea on how do you get to that 007. You could just look at the numbers, and some people still just do that, and they get their sense of whether it's a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 based on those words. But it turns out those words have some vagueness in it, and this is a little bit more analytical, but as you'll see, there's still judgment. What Joe believes, and this makes good sense and is true for so many of us, is that this first impression gestalt, when you first look at the picture, when you first look at your target, your photo site, what is going to be the grabber? What's going to smack you in the face first? What's going to get you in the ballpark, if you will? And there can be more than one fig, but there's usually something when you take that first look that hits you, and that very often is what will come up in the sessions, either early on or after some time it becomes clear that this is what was going on at that photo site. Um, okay. So half of the weight goes to that first impression. Did you, in fact, get the overall gestalt? And then 50% to what I call the A/B counting. And we're going to go through the transcripts, and you're getting close to doing that, where you will mark matches to the possible photo site A, and then matches to the possible photo site B, and then you will actually get a ratio. So the first impression gestalts, the fig, that's worth 0 to 1. I mean, if you nail it, you give yourself a 1. If you didn't get the gestalts, you give yourself a 0, and it can be somewhere in between. So now you get the judgment down to there. But and then the element ratios again are 0 to 1. And so that adds up to 2. And then you can use a scale like this. If you add those two together and you get 1.5, hey, you're up to a 5. If you nailed everything, you get your 7. And the calculation turns out to be quite easy too, because all you do is add the numbers, which add up to 2, and multiply by 3.5. Okay, so let's do it. Now, you've got your transcript. The next step, of course, is getting the target. Choices, right? There are 2 possible choices. That's what ARV is all about. And what I am working to do is to get back. Here you go. So here's the page that had your coordinate in it, right? 7109.72. I hope you all said it out loud when you did your transcript. Don't say it out loud now. And normally when you were at home, you would take a picture of it, scan it, get into your computer, and then you would browse, just like I'm doing now. I clicked on the browse button for your transcript, which has to be on your computer. Since I don't do these, I do what I've just called a dummy. It's just a placeholder, but you must put something in here and your transcript, and that gives access to your judge to it generally, or yourself. If you self-judge, you have it, as you do now. And then you click Browse. So I already did that. You click Submit. So we did Browse, and then you click Submit. And there we are. Now, the way I'm doing this now, which is a little bit different, I'm showing them one at a time. If we scroll down, we'll see the second one. But what I would like each of you to do is look at all the elements on your transcript and mark a capital A if it's a good match, a little a if it's sort of marginal, against every element. And in your sketches, often there might be more than one type of what you would call an element, and you make that judgment. And so sketches can have more than one capital A or little a. So let me give you a little time to do that. If there are any questions, feel free to ask. But now you've started doing that, and see, this gets you to go through every element of the transcript. And while you're doing that, You will also get a sense of whether your fig should be 0 to 1. And right now you don't have to do the ratio, but you should just be marking capital A, little a if it's a marginal match, but still good enough that you want to call it a match. And then also put you can just put GA for fig or fig A and make a judgment on 0 to 1 on the first impression gestalt. Now, some of you will take longer, but I'm going to go to the next one, but you take as much time as you need on this. I'm going to be showing the second one. But I'll go back to the first one. So here's the second one, and this is the way it would come up on you. This is photo site B. Yep, different gestalt, different lots of things. So now you'll mark a B, capital B or little b, on every element that matches. So some of your elements might not have an A or a B on them. Some might have both, and some will have one or the other. And you'll do the counting later. Okay, and then down here, now you can see both. Now and take your time. The judging is very important. This is where we make a decision on where to put resources. You know, if it's a yes, a strong yes or a strong no, you might wager. If you're asking a question about where a missing person is, you might put resources there. Or you might say, hey, didn't get enough info to do that. But now that's what you're doing. So take your time. But when you got your judging done, and you take the ratio of the A's over the total number of elements and then the B's over the total number of elements, and you look at your gestalt, you could either do the arithmetic, use the chart, but somehow you need to come up with a CRA, and for now you can just say, well, do CRA and then a number, comma, CRB and a number. I just put that in the chat box, but what I'd like you to do is send it to me personally, because I want everybody's to be independent. So I don't want you to see somebody else who gave one side a high score that you feel you need to, because they need to be all independent, and they should be. So there should be a place there where you could put in, it'll either have my name or presenter or organizer, some name which will go to me. So when you're ready, you can do that, and then just and then email me. Let me give you my email address, which you all have, but it'll just make it a little easier. and then email me your transcript with the judging on it, and then we will look at it and talk about it. So you'll get to see what other people did, and they'll get to see what you did. And we can talk and give each other advice, suggestions. And of course, it's up to each of us then to see what resonates and how we can then learn and improve our own ARVing. Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, if you have any questions or comments, and Anastasia, you can send your transcript along to me if you'd like to. It also shows that you can upload it to your own computer, because you need to do that then to attach it to an email to me. Again, I'm looking for the CRA and CRBs in the chat box. Good, thanks, Anastasia. We'll wait a little longer for a few other people to do that, and then we'll take a look at them. Okay. Let me go start setting this up. That one there. This here. A little smaller. Okay. Okay, thank you, Millie. Good. I can see from the numbers that you did this using the full system. Super. There's Millie. Oh, brother. I'm just trying to get this so we can see them both, and I'm having some difficulty here. Those of you who are judging, please keep doing that. Oh, I think maybe this will do it. Okay, let's do it this way. Okay, Evelyn, I see yours too. Thank you. Let me put it in my table. I'm making a table of all these, which I will show at the end, so I can make a group prediction, and we can finish this off by putting the CRs in for the group. Okay. Okay, Anastasia, we'll look at yours, and those of you that are doing your judging, you please just keep doing your judging, and we'll talk about yours eventually when you upload it. So here you got 5 and 6 A's and B's. Do you have a mic, Anastasia? We can talk a little bit about that, or you can put stuff in the chat box. Your CRs are 2 and 3, so that meant it was a pass. I don't see your mic, or if you want to do so, okay, your mic is not working. Okay, if you want to do anything, put it in the regular chat box so we can all see, rather than private. And let's see. So I'm looking now. Soft, yep, A and B. Hard, well, I guess even this might be considered hard, but that's your judgment. This certainly has a stronger feeling of being hard in here. Yeah, maybe that's not nearly as hard, but again, it's a judgment. Gray. Yeah. Blue. Well, actually, it's more blue here, but you probably have a little blue sky. And what is that? What is that word there? This looks like foggy, and then I can't make out that word. Oh, this is beautiful. It is beautiful. Okay. Yeah. Okay, very good. Land. That's clearly the B. Human bio is A. And that's good that it's just not bio, it's human bio. And this word here, nature, which is a B. 4, 5, 6. Okay, and if anybody else wants to comment, you got this shape. Yeah. I don't know what I would do that as. It's not a circle, maybe the mountain, but certainly this with hair, and you didn't give any, and you gave a 0 for both of the figs, I guess. And yeah, once you do that, okay, you don't feel like you captured. You might have a little, I mean, with nature, this certainly is a nature scene. You gave it a B, but I don't know, as a gestalt, that might have captured it. Okay, okay, good enough. Thank you. That's what you did. I can't fault it. I can't even give you. No, don't be sorry. Are you kidding? The best of the viewers, including Joe McMonagle, pass sometimes. In fact, he told us of a case where he waited until he got the equivalent of a 6 before he would tell his customer to act on it. So, no. And I've been at workshops with him where he just does passes. I think passes are important for lots of reasons. There could be noise, interference. So, no, thank you. Okay, let me see. Okay. So we did that. And do you want to save changes? No. Oh, I see. Okay, so now let's do. Okay, so. Okay, Evelyn, it doesn't look like we got yours. This is Anita's. Hopefully you're working on getting yours in. Right.
My scanner's giving me fits right now.
Okay. Okay, well, see if you can solve it. If not, we'll just talk about it. But I've got Anita's, so let me go and do hers now. Okay, see this one, I don't know why. Some it'll let me edit, others it won't. Very strange, but we'll rotate this to the right, and there we got it. Okay, Anita, do you have a mic?
Yes.
You do. You're on. Okay, so just tell us a little bit about this, and then the scores. Oh, I see your two scores are close. Okay, interesting.
Yes, I got both.
Yeah.
And in the start, I got my target numbers like I was dyslexic now.
Yeah.
I got all these numbers.
Right.
Let me just see here. Okay, first impression I got was that it was a natural feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got a person
Okay.
sitting with something square.
Wow. Sitting with
Then I
something.
got
What word did you use? Sitting with something.
square,
Huh.
but I draw the square. I didn't write square. So there at the GA is the gestalt for the person with a square.
Right.
And let me just see here. Just to the right of that, again, I got like a almost a pattern thing that reminds me of the clouds in photosite B.
Yeah.
The shape I got next to that, the two stripes, that one is a bit difficult, but it's more loud in image A to me. And also the patterns to the right. Let me just see. Actually, that I marked that wrong. That should actually, no, it is I. The two squares there reminds me of the little box there in that
Yeah.
where her fingers are.
I think that's good.
And also the to the left next to the number 210, where I wrote almost like writing, it's the things in the row. That also reminds me of more of photosite A. And then next to the other numbers is I wrote like a telephone. And my granddad used to play an instrument like this, and he always used to put it in his neck like a telephone, like when you clutch a telephone between your shoulder and your neck.
Okay, that's interesting.
Let me just see. Okay, the colors. I got red. I can't really see if it's orange or red, but it's close.
Orange, and there's some red there too.
Yeah, the
And it's okay
green
to
is.
not get it. Oh, okay, good. There's some
It's
places where you put nothing. Okay, that's good. I want
and green is, I don't know if it's green there in the right picture. In fact, it's like B in the background there. It looks like mountains.
Right, might be green there.
Texture furry. Yeah, I put that photosite A because the woman's got like a furry thing around her neck. Her hair is also furry. Next to that, I've got grassy. That's more like photosite B. Smell, I couldn't really be clear. I know the on our farm we've got a lot of implements and stuff that's more like smells like rusty, but close to gunpowder, but not quite. So I won't really mark that. Taste, I don't know why I got that taste.
Okay,
Also the sound.
Let me ask you this. Well, just because we don't have to go over every single one, because there's one other thing, especially since you gave them two close numbers. Did you put numbers on here? There's a kind of a quality, and that's why we go big A or little a sometimes, or super big A. And let me just ask you your impression now of, you ended off, and I think this is doing the arithmetic because your counts came close together. Did you come up with a gestalt? Do you have a GIF in here?
Yes, there's a gestalt there. To the left, just under where I wrote target, I put GA. And to the right at the bottom side of the page, there's a GB with a landscape and a circle. So I actually got both.
There it is. So GB was...
Yeah, that one.
Okay. For B, you got... And what about G for A?
That's to the left at the top, just under the word target. Left top page of the page. The right at the top. Yes. There by the square and the person sitting.
Okay.
Sorry, I wrote small.
What did you... Oh, and you gave it a 0, or... You're saying...
I gave it the same because...
Right.
That's difficult.
Landscape, okay.
So I
So
went with
you
the
might not
elements.
have given it a 1, or then you went in and you really used, and I've seen this before, so don't feel bad. You
Yeah.
really end off using the element counter,
The
not
elements
the
at the end of,
gestalt, because it's the same.
yes, and that's a problem because I get the gestalts most of the time. I get both.
Right.
So I don't know if I'm doing it right.
You're doing, look, you're right at the cutting edge here. This is where we have to teach ourselves. And
Yes.
it's more, believe it or not, in the judging than in the remote viewing, I think. But I could be wrong just because I'm so focused now on judging. That the learning on how to do it comes. In the remote viewing, well, it's there too. Wouldn't it have been nice if you only got one gestalt and not both?
Mm.
And that might be something you might talk to your subconscious about. In fact, that would be my suggestion when I see something like this, because yeah, this is certainly, they're both really good gestalts. I think you should have probably given them maybe a half to make them the same, or
Mm.
even as high as a 1.
Okay, okay, yes,
Yeah, not certainly
yes.
not a 0, because this one especially.
Yeah, yeah.
See, when you gave me this one, I was very impressed. I mean, you caught it all. You caught the woman, and you caught the fact that you had something square. I mean, that was really good. But of course, you got landscape here,
The
and it came
circle and the
late. And one of the things which I'd like you to really start paying attention to, and one session will not mean anything, neither will 2 or 3. You need to have 25. Is your first gestalt much more accurate than when it comes later? Did you decide that it was time to peek at the decoy? And only you will know that, because everybody is going to be different, and you should just watch what's going on. I'll just say that a lot of people get the correct gestalts early on. Now, I don't know if that's the case here or not, but you, by doing this, will be able to tell that.
yeah. It's difficult, but the elements seem to be rather accurate, because I saw in my last in my track record where I got these gestalts evenly, where I counted the elements. So far, I've been accurate. So it seems the element counting, for me in any case, is rather accurate if I've got trouble sorting the gestalts out.
Well, and you're doing both, so you see that. That's important. But the fact that you're doing both of them at remote viewing time, don't do that. That's not good ARVing. What it is it's good psychic viewing of this session right now. What you're doing, for whatever reason, is lighting up both potential targets the same. That's not your tasking. Your tasking is to move to the feedback session and really light that one up.
Yes,
And you need to get
agree.
that. Yeah, you got that intellectually. Your subconscious doesn't have it. Your subconscious is looking at both. Right?
I get you.
Yeah. And so what you want to do is have a conversation with your subconscious. Isn't that cool to be able to do that? But you can do that. Do you meditate?
Yes.
So you
Yes,
you know
yes.
you know just how to do it. Do one of your meditations, and when you at some point in time, at least most of us can ask questions in the meditation. Have it be a more focused meditation rather than I'm going to go to nothing meditation or just do breathing. But you could ask a question, right? And I really
Yes.
or give instructions. Hey, why are you giving me both? Do you understand that I really would just like the one, because it would be just better when I'm doing my ARVing? And talk to
Yes.
it and convince it that it's good for it too, because it's now doing the task correctly. Um, and that's what you would like. Because it really
Yes,
wants to be your partner.
it's being over helpful.
Okay. Okay, very good. Thank you, Anita.
Thanks.
Bye now.
Bye.
Okay, let me see. And Anita, okay, it doesn't look like I have anybody else. Okay,
I
so
sent mine, Marty. Did you get it?
yeah, I'm going to look now. First, I want to get rid of the file already exists, read only. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't want to do that.
Marty, I sent you mine too.
Okay, let me see what I've got here. So we just did Anita's. I do have Evelyn's, so let me do hers, and then yours will come in as well. I always do them in the order I get them. Okay, and yours came in looking good.
I had to switch printers. My other one, it's screwing up scanning. So I hope this one turns out.
Here it is. So it looks good. Um,
And it's interesting. I find quite often in this workshop that more than one of us get a similar concept. And I got the concept of a circle, but I thought it was something was moving. So I thought it was like people standing together, and then some of them were moving in a circle. Well, if she's moving that, moving that accordion, then that's the idea of the motion. But what I drew there and what I was seeing was really the circle at the top of that accordion.
You think
And
this?
no, I'm talking about this circle here.
Yeah,
you're in the middle. I don't know. You're not seeing my mouse, I guess, but
no.
In the middle, the circle in the middle where it says A fig above it.
Oh, okay.
It was like, no, not that one. The next one down. The next one down. Yeah, that's the one. That's where it says fig, but down below it is the actual drawing where I saw something moving in a circle in it. And I thought it was a whole lot of people maybe standing on a field with people marching in a circle. That was the AOL I went to, was like a marching band.
Okay. That's good for you. You said think, which brings in the AOL immediately.
Yeah, I wrote it on the side because I used to be in marching band, but it's that circular picture at the top of the accordion was pretty much the image I was seeing. And if she was moving the accordion, like even the keys under her fingers, I felt like it was like lots of people standing around, and some of them were milling in a circle. That's the way I saw it. But what I was seeing was that image, and the one above it, the one I thought I knew something was waving, and I couldn't decide whether it was tree branches or a flag or something, but it was her elbow. And that drawing right where you got your mouse now, that's her elbow.
Okay, let me go back a step, Evelyn.
Yeah.
Because I think this is important for everybody. You did the AOL just right, because she said, I think. However, if you can go back to the instant before that, did you have a sense of people coming from the subconscious, and then you went to the AOL?
I didn't. I just had a sense of something standing in rows or in rows, kind of. And so then I got it that it was people standing, and I could see this motion in a circle. So then but originally it was like.
My point is, this was, and we do this more and more, you get to pick up what came from the raw sub and then what went over. And that's just what you did here. But sometimes you might have got a sense of people from the sub, and then it went to a crowd of people, in which case that would be a bit stronger, that these marks then might very well have meant people.
Well, I just knew it was something in rows, and like you know, looking down on people or something, maybe. But that first thing was the shape of the circle and the shape of the you know, of the things in rows. But the first thing was the gestalts, and
this is a gestalt of circle here too. See, that's why I'm
every gestalt fits
both.
Fits. Yeah, I guess I didn't write a B down there, but with that circle I should have. I did for the flag, because the shadow at the bottom of the picture sort of fits the shape that I called the flag. But I guess I should have put the circle on there, so it should have been one more B for that circle, for the wheel.
Right.
But the gestalts, pretty much all fit A, and when I look at the ideogram, it looks to me like there's people standing around, and I think this is a woman playing on a street corner or something. She's, you know, I looked at it a bunch, and I don't think she's indoors. I think she's like outside on a porch or something, and people are watching her. That's the impression I get, and I think that's what the ideogram shows, is that she's being watched like a street musician.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, see, those are people. So.
Yeah, people, and then the motion of her, and the music, I think, is that scribble, and the original scribble, and then the last ones are the people watching. That to me fits her. It doesn't fit that wheel at all, because that wheel is like an antique combine, is what that is.
Right.
I used to help harvest wheat. We didn't use them quite that old, but that is an antique wheat combine, and there isn't really any people or anything.
Really good. And I see the 0.7 you gave to A was the GA, right? That would be the gestalt for A. You gave a 0.7.
Well, the 0.4, the first number is, let me go get the paper out of the scanner, because I can see it better than looking on my computer screen.
You know, how people go through doing the arithmetic is of interest, because other people.
0.68 is the number of elements divided by the number that there was, and that gives you 0.68. And then the plus 0.4 was the first fig, which was the waving thing. Okay. And the second fig was the circle with all of those points. And I didn't draw anything on to the left of the circle, but I really felt like there was rows of people, was what I was going to call it, but rows of something, which is exactly those finger things, you know.
So okay.
I didn't draw it in because I was afraid. I was going too much into the marching band thing. I spent 6 years in marching band, so, you know, I was trying to get myself out of that. But I did feel like there was rows of something on the left side of that.
I get it, Evelyn. Let me just correct one thing you did here, but it was interesting the way you did it. You found two figs, and you gave each of them 0 to 1. So notice this adds up to more than 1. This adds up to 1.1.
Okay, so the fig can't be more than 1. Is that
correct?
The deal?
Correct.
Okay.
And in this case, I would say the way you did it, maybe you should have made this a 0.9 or something like that, because you found two good ones.
Okay.
And you didn't miss any. See, that's the other thing. Like, you know, had you maybe just gotten a person but not motion, but you also got moving. So you really captured this gestalt pretty well, I think. So.
And I did actually, before I faxed it off to you, I gave it a 0.1 fig to the circle for the second one.
Yeah.
For side B, but I didn't write it on the transcript. But that's okay. Where I got.
That's where you got that from. And
part of a fig because of the circle. So I did recognize the circle. I just didn't write it down.
But the fact that you didn't say outside or field or mountain.
So the fig can't ever be more than 1 then. All right. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
You
know, no, that's okay. You did.
But I definitely felt strongly that second fig was a strong one. That's why I gave it a 7.
Exactly. And so together then you had two good reasons and to come up with a 0.9 or even a 1 or 0.8, something like that would be perfectly understandable as a judgment.
And the hit I had yesterday, Monday,
Yeah.
on the football game was the same way. I gave a really good fig because I felt really good about one section, and I did get a hit on that one. So I think I'm finally getting the hang of this fig thing. It's been kind of hard to get it in my head exactly how it's supposed to work, but I think I'm getting better at it.
I think you are too. So that's
And the business of starting out with those gestalts, like I learned from Lori Williams, it really helps to get my mind in gear. And the other thing that I've added this time is I listened to a YouTube that popped up on my feed it was a 3-part one from John Vivanco.
Yeah.
And he was one of them that was into real CIA stuff and all that, but he talked about that, the actual process of remote viewing, and that he calls it an objective instead of a target. And that just really hit home with me. I watched that one several days ago, and it's like, so that's what I did on the one Monday.
Okay.
Because to me, a target is something you shoot a gun at. And so an objective to me is
whatever
final
works.
Objective.
See,
it worked well.
You're training yourself, Evelyn, which is perfect. You're getting it into terminology that resonates with you. And so this is cool. And you just keep doing that. And that's what everybody else has to do too. Okay, now there was someone else who said they sent me another transcript. Who was that? Because I don't see another one here. Wasn't there someone?
That was me, Millie. I'm going to resend it right now.
Okay, yeah, Millie, because I did not get it. Good. Yeah, try to send it again because you need to be able to figure out how to do that to go through the system anyway. So, okay, and Katina said, Evelyn, to me, your A looks like the overall picture of the photo site B, man may. When you say A, Katina, what do you mean?
Hi, Marty. When I had to turn off everything, and I came back and just looked at Evelyn's ideograms, etc., and had no sound, so I wasn't listening to what she was talking about. But it's interesting because her ideograms and pictures look so much like the non-woman.
I see.
Which looks like it going up the hillside, and even the other picture she has looks like a circle with little bits of grass to the right. What I'm saying, and it was interesting. My perception, like up A, that looks like it's just a big round thing, and then going up like it would as an artist going up into a distance, and then figure A7 looks exactly like the round thing, similar in the front, which is really taking up a lot of room, and then look at all the little bits of grass to the right. So I had such a different interpretation of just by seeing what she did, and I found it interesting as to where she went. And Evelyn, you did a great job. It's just interesting to me how I perceive it without listening.
Well, it shows you how important judging and interpretation and all of that is.
Cool.
Well, I don't have anything from you though. It sounds like you did do a transcript.
No, I haven't done a transcript. I just took Lori Williams' first class.
Okay. So you didn't feel like it. Okay.
I'm being a chicken, but
yeah, I was going to say, jump in. Every time you jump in, you learn a little something.
I will.
Scaredy cat.
Thank you.
Okay, definitely do the next one. Okay. Okay, let's see if I've got.
Oh, I just sent it again.
Okay, yeah, let me see if we've got Millie's here. There you are. Okay. Very good, Millie. And I don't know if I'm waiting. There are a couple more that usually do it, Arthur and Lila, but maybe you didn't do one this time, which is fine. The viewer is in charge. Okay, here you go, Millie. Why don't you, kind of summarize for us what was the most important and why you came up with your two numbers.
So my first big was water, and then I kind of AOL'd it, and then kind of later on, after in the middle of the session, I got like no resistance, kind of like in the middle under textures, which was really strong impression for me. So I thought that might have been a gestalt. And then the other one that came in as a kind of big was white circles, which was really out of my context. I would have never. So I thought that was an impression. So I actually added wrong, but those were kind of my gestalts, and I don't know. There's no water in any of them.
Right.
So I don't know, but the feeling of water, I guess I had that feeling, so I had to give it a grade. And I guess that's why my grade's kind of low, because that was an impression that I got even later in the middle of the session.
Yep.
Yeah, so I had to grade it.
And I think that's really, you need to be applauded and feel good about that, because you're right. When water comes in, and if there's no water anywhere, you obviously have to downgrade, even if you get other gestalts, because that's sort of a big picture gestalt. And you didn't just get a 1. I'm looking at splashing here too. So, and you went down on that. Now, how about your A-B ratios? What were they?
They were 30, and then so like photo sites for A, I got 14 out of 30, but I kind of added a little bit wrong. I think later on I figured it out. I added wrong, but they're still kind of low scores anyway.
Well, half is not too low. It's okay. But you have to have the gestalt too. That's why the system is so good. Because if you have a lot of stuff that doesn't match, then you get a lower number just in the element count. Okay, so no, very good. And again, everybody, when you get a pass, that's terrific. But at feedback time, and you don't do it now, but at feedback time, one or the other of these is going to be the correct one. And then you're going to say, gee, I wish I had gotten the gestalts. And then you know what you do? You communicate. You get quiet. You communicate with your subconscious. Gee, why, didn't you give me field or outside or hill or metal or circle if it's the right one? Or, gee, I could hear the sound of the accordion. Or, you work it at feedback time when you know the right answer it is. So you train yourself to get that kind of information, which you didn't get this time. And it's not going to change this session at all, but what it changes is the relationship between you and your subconscious, in that your subconscious now has a better idea of what you want to give it, the sort of idea, and that you're going to be doing a really detailed feedback session next time and the time after that, so it knows where to look to get the kind of information that you're sharing. So that's how you self-teach, using the feedback session. Okay, thank you. So I think that's everyone. Oh, okay. Yeah, but you wouldn't have known that before. Lila, thank you for that comment. And if you come late, let me tell you something that some other people do sometimes. They go in and they say, I'm going to get the coordinate later, but I'm doing the session that Marty is doing now. Or you put a date and time down. You don't have to have the exact one as long as your intention is clear that it's for the one that we're doing now. The subconscious knows all this stuff, and it's very flexible. Joe tells a story of when he put down the totally wrong coordinate but got the right answer. because it's the intention of the tasker and you, and as long as they're aligned, you're in good shape. Okay, so now let me bring over, I think this is everybody. So this is where we stand in resting. And the way I judge is I give credit at the level of marking it as a yellow. Anything over the 3.5, the 4 and above. Usually I do a gray for 3.5. And I also take special note of the separation here. When they're close like this, I don't know. Anita, you might very well have decided they were too close and would want to pass, in which case you could lower this to a 4 or raise the 4 to a 4.5. Because if they're the same, they pass. But the fact they're over 3.5 says I did a pass, and I got good psychic, but they were too close to each other. And so you might need to consider doing that. So now, as the group manager, it comes down to, do I go with just one person? Because these are too close, but it was a 4.5.
I can almost make that a 5, because the Persian sitting came through a lot louder than the natural thing.
Okay, and that's the quality. And what I said about Evelyn, I don't know this to be true for her, but for a lot of people, the very first Gestalt is the most accurate. You're wanting to up this to a 5. So thank you for, in fact, I'm going to put it here as a 5.
Because you said the other one came through like peeping afterwards.
Right. And this is very important for everybody to understand. Even with Joe's system and the way I've instructed you to use it, know that this qualitative, and this is a bit where the intuition comes in, this subjective sense of one being stronger than the other. That's why you give a capital A versus a little a, and maybe you can give a double capital A to some, just like you did. You didn't even have to put it down on the paper. You did it during your judging, and you said, you know what? I really think it's stronger for this than that. And I'm going to show you where you do that in our system, but you just did it right here, which is great. So I'm going to say prediction is photosite A. That's pretty clear right now with these two like this. Now, what's the next step when you're doing this on your own? Well,
Marty,
yep.
Back to what Anita just said. I've had some misses that were judging errors, and it's because my first sketches were for one photo site, and then I had a bunch of strong sketches for the second photo site. And actually, the truth was the first photo site. And I'm really starting to think that I should always give more weight to the first half of my transcript, because I think I wander off more in the second half.
And that's beautiful to know, and keep watching that. You know what I'm saying? You might say, thank you, Sub, for giving me that information, but wouldn't it even be better if you just gave me more details of the correct one, if that's what you want to do? But you know what? You may decide I'm happy the way it is, using this new knowledge. If your sub wants to peek at the other one second. But see, this is up to you. I mean, the whole theme here is you are 100% responsible for how you deal with all of these issues. And I'm listening to what you said. It makes perfect sense for you. I'm not sure it makes sense for other people. And it might. And they have to decide whether it resonates with them by looking at their data and their information. So thank you for that, Evelyn. So that just further reinforces this decision, which is A. Okay, and then as an individual, remember you would have done your own. You have your CRA, CRB. All you do to finish now is put them in here. So I'm going to make this a 5. Okay, I could even make it a 5.25. So I'm going to make it a 5. It's either 5 or 5.5. I'm going to make it a 5. Those are the options. And then this one, she got a 4, but I'm going to make that a 3.5. In fact, I'm going to give you my logic. If I accept this and I'm believing this side, then I downplay the 4, and then I really don't even want, I want to say that I think this is a 3. So as a group manager, PSA had 2 strong 5 plus. But this is, you're seeing the way my logic goes. When you're a judge for yourself, you might do it differently. And then PSB was part of a pair of high CRs with CRB being lower, and I downgraded further as, and I want to make this clear to you, only as part of the group prediction process. I don't think you, Anita, would have been able to do that. In other words, if all you saw was your 4.5 and a 4, you probably would either have to pass, upgrade the 4.5 to a 5 or something like that, and you would have to make another judgment. Okay, so you'd have the opportunity to do that right here. You put notes into it. You know, Evelyn, if she were doing hers alone, would put in notes, I went with the early one because that's been the pattern so far. And then you click, okay, so that's what you do here. Remember, this is for your benefit. You have access to this. And then I do submit CR, and the answer is yes. Okay, I didn't even know that until just now. So let me go back now. So the answer is yes to the question, and the question is here, will the Dow be over 2,500 on January 22? So that's a month from now. And I want to put that into, no, it's not this one. It is this one. Okay, I can even put, well, I don't use that anymore. So here's where I put the question, and now we have the answer. So the answer is yes. Okay, so in terms of the prediction and the judging and the prediction, we made a prediction. It says it's going to be over 25,000. It's currently, why don't we take a look? I use yahoo.finance when I'm not on my trading system.
I think it's flirting with 23 now.
It went down?
It's been somewhere around 23 the past week, maybe 24.
Yeah, no, 24. Here we go. Here, 24,726.
Okay.
There's the Dow. So it's down a little. It hasn't hit 25,000. Let's look at it for like year to date. But boy, you can certainly see the way it's going. There's 25,000. But, some people talk about bubbles and blah, 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 whatever. But anyway, this is what we're saying. But it may go up and it may come down a month from now. So we don't know, but we predicted it's going to go up and be over it a month from now. So that's our prediction.
Marty, I remember watching the McLaughlin group back in the early 2000s when one of them swore it would never hit 7,000.
I know people make their predictions. What they don't do is keep track of them like we do, because we know that's how you learn. Okay, let me just finish. I have just a few more things I want to share with you. If there are no questions about this part, I will go on. What was the last one I did? It was... I did all these. We did this. Right. Oh, okay. So what I want to, again, getting back kind of to the earlier theme of artificial intelligence, which is currently, good enough to beat Go and teach itself. I'm just telling you, that's rather remarkable that they came up with that. Even in a deterministic system, teaching itself can beat the best Go player at all, because it just put together enough logic to figure it out. And humans would not have done it the same way. So it was done internal to the AI machine, giving the AI machine the flexibility to make connections between moves. And remember that. I just found that so remarkable. Now that's with the deterministic machine. What about a machine that can do non-locality? And again, I use the word machine in all the best sense of that word. In some ways, we are like machines. We know that. Would you want your heart for you to have to pay attention to your heart beating or your breathing? We have lots of things which go on in a mechanistic kind of fashion, but not all of it. And I think it's the not all of it that is the spirituality and the consciousness part of you. The reality of each of us being non-local and living in a non-local quantum universe, that ultimately is the ultimate spirituality of oneness. It really says we are connected to everything, past, present, future, other galaxies. We are connected to everything. The issue, okay, so we just have to kind of get that, everything. And I use the word thing in the broadest possible context. Ideas are things. It's not only material stuff. Ideas are things. Concepts are things. When you create something like it seems like it was brand new, that's a creative process of a new thing. Okay. Now, what seems to be the key and what we're tuned into in spades is this issue, of the strength of the entanglements, right? We're connected to everything, but we're connected to everything with different strengths. I don't know, what just came to mind was gravity. Think about gravity. The way gravity works is you are connected to all the stars in the universe, including ones in galaxies that are so far away that the effect of their strength is minuscule. You are affected mostly by the planet Earth. That's what gravity does. But you know what? Physics accepts that the moon has an effect on not only Earth, but it has an effect on you in terms of its gravity. Let's not get into other things, just the gravity of it. Okay? So the strength of the moon is stronger, its gravitational pull on you and on the Earth, just because of its closeness, is stronger than other things. Well, in this more general world we're working on, which is a world of information, what you're getting from your feedback session is information about a photo site and working on those entanglements. And it's the strength of those entanglements and how to strengthen them, how to minimize anything else. That's what we're all about. That's the challenge. Well, you already know how to do that. You've certainly forgotten a lot of things. You would want to have them present with you all the time. And you can retrieve things, and you have some things which are entangled very strongly. Think of some very happy moment. Think of some very loving moment. Get that feeling. It comes in pretty quickly. You're entangled with that. Well, you know, some people, and I think HeartMath uses this system, will actually get you in a loving place and then entangle things with it. Well, I think you can use that at your feedback time to light up and entangle that picture and make it interesting, make it important, make it all those things which will increase the entanglement. And you need to learn what those are. But I think most of them are obvious. I just don't think we do it. We don't spend the time to make those entanglements strong with that particular coordinate. But this is the key. It's almost hard to argue with all of these. Oneness, the fact that we're non-local connects us with everything. And we know there are variations in the entanglement strength. I'm calling that entanglement energy. And you want to know something? I don't know exactly what that means. I think it might be very personal. But I think emotions, stuff like that, are part of it, the things which make us human. In fact, I should probably put that next time I do this. I want to put entanglement energy, and I think emotions are part of that. One emotion is feeling something is important enough that you're paying attention to it. You are the one now, and I hope you really get this, who are totally responsible for, and you're creating your precognition. It is yours. You're the remote viewer. You're the feedbacker. Here's where you know the truth. Non-locally, you can entangle that information, and you can learn to do it better and better by just teaching yourself. We are right at a wonderful cutting edge. I really see it as a cutting edge, moment in a big picture sense of the word moment, because while precognition, retrocausality, has been around forever, our group, and there are a few other groups that are doing this, certainly groups that have done it in the past, are purposefully using precognition for the practical application of making money over the long term. Mostly people have been doing it over the short term. Russ Togg made money over the short term. Prudhoff made money over the short term. Others have made money over the short term. But nobody seems to be into it over the long term. And I think there's so much power in doing that, in learning how to communicate with your subconscious. Come on, it has lots of other applications besides ARV. I think it has, and I've talked about this, and I'll talk about it again, applications for your health. Once you can build up this communication channel with something as powerful and non-local as your subconscious, wow, that's very significant. And so, as always, all of this really is so valuable because I really think it can lead to a healthier, wealthier, and wiser life for all of those that are in it, just taking it seriously.
Marty?
And with that,
Marty?
with that, I thank you. And now let's open it for questions and comments. Yeah, go ahead, Evelyn.
I'd just like to say, if anybody didn't listen to that talk by Paul on Monday, they should go back and listen to that, because that's what I did for the cool down, was kind of the last one he showed us, because I've known how to do those things for a long time. I never thought of using them for RV, but that thing from Paul, that was dynamite.
Okay, now I want to say two things about that. One, I agree with you that for most people it'll be dynamite. Clearly it is for you. But the other part to say is that doesn't mean it will be dynamite for anybody else. Everybody has to find their own. And listening to suggestions from like you now and other suggestions or what will guide them to look at things, and then do they integrate it in their lives or not, depending on whether it resonates with them. And that's the thing. Also, you can certainly try it and see if it resonates. And that's the process we're all in. All of us, this is something which I don't believe you ever finish, which is so beautiful. This is a journey which transcends, because it's non-local, our physical life. I'm now a very strong believer that my soul, if you want to call it that, some inner part of me lives on. And guess what? It's going to keep learning then too. But I believe that what I'm doing now is part of that process. And I think I've now discovered a process, which is the self-learning process. It's not ARV, but ARV is such a beautiful way of getting into it and practicing it. I really think it's a city. Which is one of these yoga, Buddhist type of things, which can get you to higher levels of spirituality. I've heard people say, no, it's not that. I disagree. In my view, when you approach it just the way I discussed it in this webinar, I think you can see that it is a spiritual path. Other questions, comments? Okay. Yes, thank you. And everybody, yes, have a happy holiday, happy, prosperous, and healthy new year, and keep precogging. So I'll end this now.